So the first step is to do the revenue analysis, right? Figure out what is this particular property going to actually make on Airbnb average per month, right? So that's the first step, the revenue. Now there's two ways that you can do it. You can go onto Airbnb and do the math. I'm going to show you how to do that. And the second way, we've actually developed a proprietary bot tool that's going to tell you the average revenue. It's going to give you graphs. It's going to tell you the safe rent, max rent you should be paying. But let me show you the Airbnb way first before I show you a proprietary tool. So this is a particular city. Now these units are all 1 bedrooms. So it's actually right here, 1 bedroom, like kind of like a studio with a kitchen space. So it's kind of like a micro 1 bedroom that's already furnished. So basically I come into Airbnb, I type in the right zip code, I filter it by 1 bedroom. I want to look at the 70th percentile. Now 90th percentile is very optimistic. If I'm very confident that I can perform this 90th percentile, I'll do that. But this particular property is, I think, very safely with my operations going to be at around 75th percentile. What I'm going to do is I'm going to download the CSV file. I'm going to open that up and I'm going to have the monthly average revenue. I'm going to copy that over into my deal analysis sheet. So it's going to be right here. So first thing is I really just want to look at the 75th percentile. So I'm going to hide these columns just so they're out of the way. I really just want to focus on the 75th percentile. Okay. And then as far as the actual dates, I like to right now just look at everything COVID and beyond. So from 2021 onwards. After COVID, there was a boom. So right now we have a full year's worth of data from 2022. So it would be best to just look at straight 2022. This is after everything normalized a bit. There wasn't, obviously right after COVID, people were pent up. There was a travel boom. So the numbers are a bit inflated. So I like to just look at 2022 full year's worth of data. So let me just take this all the way until March of this year. Let me copy this as well. And put it right here. Okay. So date, 75th percentile. These are the numbers, average monthly revenue. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to grab an average of this to see, okay, so this particular 1 bedroom is going to make $2,400 per month on average. Now we're going to do some math here on the math will be on the ROI. So we're going to take this number, this 2,400. This is going to be basically this whole analysis is giving us this, right? I can make a graph for you to show you how that looks seasonal wise. And again, our bot actually does this for you. So you're going to go to insert chart. And it's going to give you 75th percentile by date. So you can see the seasonality, right? In this particular market, you can see it peaks in March as well as May, 3,000 and above, around 3,000 and above, as well as April. Those are the high seasons. And you can see it does pretty decently throughout the summer. And towards the winter, it drops down as low as in the 2000s towards November and December and January and February. Okay, so you know the seasonality. Now I'm going to show you the other way you can do it. Because we have this broken down to a science, we've developed a tool that's completely free for all the students. Basically, a bot that's going to do this analysis for you, right? So I'm going to type in the city, the state, the zip code, and then the number of bedrooms into this bot, and it's going to spit back how many listings are in the zip code. There's 320. There's 112 1-bedroom listings. I'm going to be competing with 112 other 1 bedrooms. Average monthly revenue is $2,783. That's a little bit higher than what I calculated because the bot takes into account the past 2 years. So it's taken into account 2021. So at the end of the day, the analysis here is kind of like back of the napkin math, right? You're not going to get the exact numbers. The market will change as well. This is just giving you, if you assume conservative numbers and you're still in a safe zone, then you should take the deal. At the end of the day, the deal will probably not work out exactly what you're projecting. But the reason why we do these projections is to make sure that when we do conservative projections, we have a margin of error in case the margin goes lower, right? If it goes higher, that's perfect. Then we're very happy with that because we did conservative projections. We end up performing better. That's optimal scenario, right? So right now, what this is telling me is that my analysis from AirDNA 2465, it's going to make between 2465 and 2783 monthly analyzed average monthly revenue. And then what this tool will also tell you is the max rent that you should be paying, which is pretty much, we want to make 2 times revenue to rent. So that's the formula there, max rent, and a safe rent, which gives you some margin of error, about $1,500 net profit a month. Safe rent that I want to pay here is $1,210. Max rent is $1,391. Now, if I do the same math here, we can do safe rent. I'm going to go with this number because it's more conservative, right? Whenever you do projections, you want to go more conservative because it gives you more margin, more room for error, right? If you're off a little bit, I'd rather a deal still work with conservative numbers than assume optimistically that a deal could work and it ends up falling flat, right? So safe rent and max rent, okay? Safe rent is going to be, max rent is just like the max that you should pay. So that's going to be around half of this. Now, if it's a little bit over, that's fine. You can do plus or minus 10%. So, I'm going to go ahead and I'd say plus or minus 10 to 20%. Let's call it 15. So I'm going to multiply this by an extra or added by an extra 15%. So max rent, I'm going to be looking at about $1,400 a month based on, this amount. Safe rent is going to be this minus 1,500. This would be a very, very safe rent. So let's call it about $1,000 would be perfect. 1,400, 1,400, right? So I want to be around the range of $1,000 to 1,400 based on what this is telling me, right? The point of doing this revenue analysis is to figure out what is the rent, to figure out. So when you do the sales process, right? Let me backtrack a little bit. When you do the sales process, you don't have to do the deal analysis at the beginning of the sales process, right? The way we do it, we call it a funnel or a net, right? You're casting out as many possible cold connections, cold calls, cold leads, etc. You're gonna get a huge funnel of leads. It doesn't matter whether or not you would take it, right? Because as short-term rental operators, especially at the beginning of your short-term rental operator journey, you don't really have the leverage or the power to say yes or no to deals, right? So you want to see who are the people that will actually say yes to you, and then pick from the people that will say yes to you, and then actually do the specific deal analysis. So you do this analysis when you have someone that's willing to work with you. Otherwise, you're going to waste time. You're going to waste days analyzing deals that won't even come into fruition. You make one call and they say no, and you spend 2 hours analyzing the deal. You just wasted your time. Okay. So I'm doing this at a point at which this was actually an inbound lead, a hotel conversion, but I'm doing this at a point in which the landlord really wants to work with me, and I want to see if I want to take the deal. So I have actual specific numbers, specific rents to plug in to see if it'll work, right? So we want to be between, say, ideally around $1,200 in rent. Between $1,000 to $1,400 would be a good amount. Around $1,200, $1,300. I will show you guys the rent, but if it's around 14 to 15, I'll be pushing it a little bit, right? Because there's still other factors to consider, not just like the actual profit margin, but also the relationship with the landlord. Synergies with if you already have units in the city, if you already have furniture sitting there ready to go, if you can furnish it for cheap, and there's other factors to consider besides just the margin, monthly margin. You want to look at the entire ROI of the deal, which I will show you on the next page. But for now, based on the initial analysis, I want to be between $1,000 to 1,400, maybe 1,450, 1,475 in rent that I want to pay. So this tells me how much do I want to actually pay in rent. I'm going to take this number, 2465, and I'm going to plug this in to my ROI calculator. Now in the ROI calculator, basically the way this works is it looks at the entire lease term, it looks at the concessions, it looks at your furnishing costs, and tells you, is this deal worth it to take based on the entire ROI of the lease, assuming you don't get renewed. Now, most of the times I do get renewed. Let's say 90% of the time I do get renewed, but I want the deal to work just based on assuming non-renewal, because again, remember, we want to assume conservative. We want to assume that things won't work out ideally, because if they work out on paper in a non-ideal scenario, then you have a lot of room for error. So with this particular deal, so I've set this up for you guys. The way it works is you do the analysis. Let's say you have a batch of units, right? Because basically we teach you to land multiple units at the same time, right? With these apartments or even with larger landlords with houses, you're going to have multiple deals. Let's say like take on 5 units at a time, 10 units at a time. That's the way the reverse arbitrage funnel works. So that's why I have 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom. So you have basically right here on this ROI analysis, this is looking at per unit. For 1 bedroom, what are you going to make? For 2 bedroom, etc. 4 or 5, you can change this. And then right here, this is the unit mix. So you're going to take this and you're going to, for example, if I have taken on 5 2 bedrooms and 5 3 bedrooms, you're going to do this equals this times 5 plus this times 5. That's your unit mix, right? That's the furnishing cost that you're going to incur across the entire batch. And then here, same thing, monthly profit analysis. This is looking at what are you going to make per month, like in an actual realistic scenario. This is like a cumulative tracker, right? So month 1, obviously, you're going to be in the negative because you just paid a lot in furniture. Month 2, it's going to start to come back. So you're going to see we're going to create charts based on this. So this is like actual scenario across an entire, let's say, 48-month lease, what the cumulative profit is going to look like per month. And again, we're going to take this and turn it into the entire portfolio based on multiplying whatever the unit mix is, and then we'll generate a chart. So let's change this for my specific deal. I don't want to delete it. I'm just going to white it out so you guys don't see it because I only have 1 bedrooms in this batch. Let me tell you about the deal real quick. It's going to be 23 1 bedrooms, right? So the unit mix is 23. So what we're going to do here is this times 23. Now, the way this particular deal works, again, this is going to be different for each deal that you get, for each deal that I get, etc. It's already furnished, but we're going to come in and we're going to decorate and spice it up based on what I see, based on when I do due diligence. To take another step back, there's a revenue analysis, ROI analysis, and then there's a due diligence checklist, and then there's a logistical checklist. So we're going to go through each one. Stay tuned. So for the furnishing costs, it already has everything in there, but we're going to, have to come in and spice it up per se. So I'm going to say, let's say we spend $1,500 per unit, spicing it up. And so that's going to budget us like 2,000 just to give us some room to work with. Again, this is all formulas, so I can change these things and everything will shift. So I can be like, hey, and this helps me budget, right? I can say, hey, if I spend $1,000 redecorating it versus spending $2,000 redecorating, what's going to look better, right? And then we can have charts and pair side by side so I can make a decision on my actual redecorating budget. But for now, let's just assume 2,000. So I'm going to spend 46,000, 2,000 times 23, $46,000 redecorating these 23 one-bedroom units. And the revenue that we mentioned is 2,465. I'm just going to round it up to 2,900 just so it's a rounder number. The rent that she told me, and this is utilities included. This is all utilities, cable, electric, and internet. So this is actually pretty solid. So it's 1,700. So I'm going to delete the utilities as an estimate. It's almost there, right? $800 profit right now, but you'll see it as it goes. So utilities is going to be zero. There's no other miscellaneous costs. Now, cleaning is covered by this, right? Cleaning is on top of this. Is just the ADR times occupancy. Cleaning is, the way I see it, is paid for by guests, right? There's a cleaning fee that you charge and it goes directly to the cleaners. You can't make a profit on it. You could make a loss on it, but I'm just looking at purely, the ADR and the revenue versus the rents. So we're still in the middle of negotiating. So that's why I'm going to see what do I particularly want from the deal, right? In order for you to negotiate, you got to see what you need. You got to see what you want. But let's say I assume I get a month of free rent, 2-year lease. I'm going to break even in 0.38 months. It's going to be about $800 profit per month. Now that's not the best, but keep in mind, I already have units in the city. It's going to be very easy for me to plug and play this, right? So there's, synergy factor that has to be considered. And this is just the initial, what they presented, right? I can still negotiate and I can still push to make this number better. And also I'm not spending much on furniture because it's already furnished. There's multiple things that play into this, but I'll keep going. The first year profit per unit, the way this formula works is it's $1,700. Sorry, it's $800 per month times 12, right? And then you add back the first month of rent because it was a rent concession. And then there should be fees. Let me add that. So whenever you take on units, there could be fees. Admin, security deposit, I just treat that as a fee because it's a cash outlay, and app. Right. So for this one, it's zero, but for typical deals, you're probably going to see some sort of fee. For security deposit, it's standard to have 1 month. I usually go for either 500 or 250 per unit if I'm taking a batch, or sometimes zero. For admin fee or app fee, it's generally between $50 to $100, which you can get it waived. If you don't push for it, they will try to charge you per unit. Doesn't make sense because you're doing one corporate application for multiple units. You always have to push for and negotiate on these three things: admin fee, app fee, and security deposit. Okay, so first year profit is going to be 11,300, and the ROI on that is 465%. I put in 2K, I'm going to make 11K in profit, right? So I just pretty much about 5x my money. The profit over the entire lease, which means over the entire 24 month, assuming the lease is 24 months, is going to be 20,900, and that's pretty much almost 10xing my money, right? 10x is a very good ROI. The minimum that I want to see across the entire lease is at least a 3 times multiple of my money. So if I'm putting in 5K, I want to see at least 15K come out over the course of the entire lease. Otherwise, it's too little. It's wasting time because usually these leases are going to be multiple years, and you don't want to spend 2 years and just double your money. There's better deals out there. Now, this is I don't really look at this, but this is nice to see what would happen. This is what it would look like basically if we get one lease renewal, another 24 months on top. Then this is where the ROI becomes insane. Now, I have a lot of units that are like this. In fact, the first 2 units that I ever leased, I still lease them to this day. It's been 4 years now. So the ROI is, I think it's sitting at I don't even know, man. It's sitting at least 50x. Yeah. So this is profit over one lease renewal. You can see this is where it becomes a 30x ROI, right? 60, 90. Again, I have units that are sitting at over 100x ROI. The first 2 units that I ever got that I put $3,000 into when I was 19 years old, it's been 4 years. I'm literally sitting at about 100x ROI that I've made from that. So this can pay you for years and years to come. And getting lease renewals is a product of operating correctly. That's why we stress a lot on systems and staff and SOPs and, being strict on guests, monitoring and enforcing guest behavior, because that's going to help you generate lease renewals. And, if you don't get renewed, then, you basically miss out on a crazy ROI, right? So we're going to do this analysis, the selected unit mix, right? So this is what it is per unit. Now we're going to take this and it's going to be multiplied by 23. Same thing here for every single one of them by 23. Lease concession is 1 month. Lease length is 24 months. Break even time is going to be the exact same because it's the same thing. So you can see first year profit. Now this should be multiplied. First year ROI, that's going to be copying the formula over, making a percentage. It's going to be the same exact thing, right? Per unit versus across the whole portfolio. Because they're all the same, the ROI is going to be the same. It's different for the profit. I'm just copying over the formulas for you guys. Again, this tool is going to be available for people, for students to use. this will be equal to this times 23. Actually, I made a mistake. So selected unit mix, I'm going to put 23 because you also want everything to be formulas. So I'm going to actually make it tied to this cell in case I want to consider, hey, maybe I want to do 15 units instead. I want it to be able to change without me having to go through and change each thing and have it be a big pain in the butt. Okay, so to this. So this is the cool part, right? 23 units, right? I'm going to just call it the number of units. So 23 units, if I decide to take 10, this is how everything changes. But at 23 units, I'm going to spend $46,000 furnishing it or redecorating it. $0, in admin fee and all that, obviously. It's going to be 57,500 estimated average revenue per month based on Airbnb. The rent is 39,100 per month. So this is like the fixed cost that's coming per month, monthly fixed cost. Utilities, obviously, I told you everything was covered. The estimated profit per month from these is $18,400. With rent concession and a 24-month lease, break-even time is the same thing, 0.38 months. First year profit, $259,900, which is a 465% ROI, same thing as per unit. And then profit over the entire lease is $480,000, so basically $500,000 profit over the entire lease. Now, if we get one lease renewal, another 24 months, the profit over one lease renewal, over 2 lease terms, is going to be $1.4 million on these 23 units. This is where you start to generate a lot of good money, and you could basically roll this money right back into more units. So imagine you had 100 of these, 150 of these, 200 like I have. This is where it becomes you reach terminal velocity, you can keep reinvesting and just your portfolio keeps growing. Okay? So monthly profit analysis. Like we mentioned, break-even time is 0.38 months. So we're going to break even, pretty much before the first rent payment comes. So month 1, this is for the 1 bedroom, right? This formula takes into account the furnishing cost and the first revenue. Because we have a free month, there's no rent concession. Actually, I'm going to make this more formulaic. So here's what happens. We're going to model month 1. So in month 1, it's going to be the revenue minus the sum of the rent and the utilities, and then minus obviously the furniture cost, and we add back if there's any months of free rent. So there's 1 month of free rent here times, where's the rent? Right here. Okay, so it's the same number, but what this does is, let's say I don't have any free months of rent and I spend $5,000 to furnish it. And this is where this changes dynamically and it considers everything. So this is perfect. And then obviously the second month is going to be more straightforward. It's just going to be simply the first month. This is cumulative, right? So the first month's profits plus the next month's profits, you just it's going to be the same formula down, because it's cumulative profits. We're assuming a 2-year lease. So I'm going to remove these. When you guys use this, you should learn Excel enough to where you can adjust it, right? If there's a 48-month lease, then you should be able to just drag it down and Control D, and it's going to take the same thing over and over again. But I'm just tailoring this to my particular scenario. So selected unit mix is going to be 23 1-bedrooms. So I'm going to do the same thing as we did over there. Number of units, and it's going to be equal to this guy times this guy. Now with Excel, you got to put a lock on it because it'll drag everything down. So this tells everything to look at this cell only and just multiply that. You're going to multiply all these by 23, basically, or whatever I set this at, 15, then it'll change. We'll drag it down, Control D, and this is what the profit looks like. Month 1, I'll be sitting at $11,000 in profit. Month 2, $30,000. Month 3, $48,000, all the way until month 24, $434,000. Now, actually, I'm going to drag this all the way down to look at what would happen, if there was a lease renewal. So if there's a lease renewal, the cumulative profit would be right here, 48 months. Yeah. So now we're going to make a graph based on this. I'm going to select the months, and then we're going to also select the profit. So this, again, go here, insert chart. And now this is showing you I'd say a pretty realistic scenario of what would happen, right? This is annoying me because there isn't x-axis. So after creating this is basically the monthly profit analysis. I'm going to extend this. Hopefully this will, this makes sense for you guys anyways. Let's look at, this is assuming lease renewal. So monthly cumulative profit, assuming lease renewal. And then I'm going to make another one, assuming non-lease renewal. Select this, insert chart. Okay, boom. So cumulative profit, assuming lease, I don't know. All right, there we go. So now you have a visual of what happens on a deal like this, right? So assuming non-renewal, my first profit is going to be $11,000 all the way until month 24, $434,000, right? So this is what I expect to make. And again, $434,000 is the return on what I'm going to get for investing $46,000. Now, assuming lease renewal, that's where it becomes absolutely crazy. So yes, this is a deal I would take. At the end of the day, the numbers on what I'm seeing here is a deal that I would take. right? The multiple, 46,000, is pretty much 10x over the course of the entire lease, assuming a 24-month lease. So now this is where it gets fun, because now I have a baseline of what I would want. And now we're going to come up with ideal scenarios to make this an even more home run. So what I'm going to do is duplicate this sheet. I'm going to call this baseline ROI, because this is just some assumptions, right? Some of this can be adjusted, and it can be adjusted in my favor. So I'm going to call this ideal ROI, right? This is where I can come in. This is where we negotiate, right? So the landlord offered me $1,700 a month in rent. I'm going to counter with $1,300 and try to get near $1,500. I'll probably settle near 16, but let's say ideally, we settle near $1,500. And you always want to ask for more months of free rent. I'm going to see if I can get 2 months of free rent, because we can come in and lease right away, right? Speed plus volume, as in like speed to lease, basically meaning, how fast you lease these units. I tell the landlord, look, I can sign today if we make it work. If you can make what I want work, I'll sign today. Speed to lease or speed to sign. And another factor is volume of sign. So I'm signing 23. I'll tell the landlord, hey, this is a hotel. Okay, a little bit about the deal real quick. So this is a inbound lead. Actually, cool story. The first 2 units that I ever got was with this property manager. And now she's elevated herself, and she's going to be an asset manager at a different company. And we still have a good relationship. She still feeds me units. She still gives me units to this very day. And she was literally the first ever person that said yes to me when I was 19 years old. She actually told me she saw the hustle in me. I was like the son that she wished she had as far as ambition. Isn't that? But, she believed in me, and it came into fruition, and, here we are. So she kind of invested into me as well. And now we have a good mutually beneficial relationship. And this is how you want to approach real estate in general. And this is what I mean by reverse arbitrage, right? But again, this is an inbound lead. This company of hers bought an extended stay hotel, and they're converting it into apartments. It's about 115 units in total due to their lender. Usually lenders have a corporate cap, right? They don't want to see the entire building be like corporate housing or short-term rentals. They have a tough time insuring it. So they said 20% corporate cap, which is 20% of 115 is about literally 23 units. That's why they offered me 23. Now there's little like tricks here and there that I share with my VIP group on how you can push past the corporate cap and work a lot of times, because if the owner could, he would lease me all 113, would sign a master lease and take the whole thing, right? But due to the lender restrictions of the corporate cap, he's only physically able to give me 23 units unless I give him the creative option. So I'm going to work with him because the deal looks good. This could be great. I could take down this entire building, sign a master lease, have all 113 units, have a lobby space, have the, because this is an extended stay hotel, right? Whenever you get Airbnbs, it's always good to centralize because it makes operations easier. But this would be like the epitome of a centralization, because I'm literally taking over a hotel. I have the facilities, like the laundry facilities, the storage facilities. I have cleaners on site. I have a concierge. I have instead of a customer service that's virtual, I literally have in-person customer service. But this could be very, very, very streamlined if I take down the whole thing. If I take down 23, that's probably going to be an entire wing or an entire floor, which is pretty good as well. Whenever you take on batch of units, you want everything to be siloed into one particular corner of the building, as opposed to spread out throughout the building, because it's better to have your guests siloed into one specific area to minimize interaction with the other residents. As many units as I can take down, I will take down as many units as I can at this particular building. Back to the deal analysis of my ideal ROI. This is what I'm going to approach the owner with. So I'm going to put comments on this. I'm going to offer 1,300. Obviously, I won't get offended because I know her really well. So in negotiations, you don't want to offend someone, because some people are stuck up, and if you offer a low enough number, they'll just call the deal off just because they have a big ego. But this person I know, so it's going to be fine. I'm going to offer 1,300. Try to settle around 1,500 to 1,600. So offer 1,300. And then other thing that I want to negotiate on is rent concessions. So I'm going to offer 3. I'd be happy with 1, 1.5, 2, but I'm going to offer 3. Actually, I'm going to offer 5 months on a 5-year lease. I like to come out just aggressive. If I have a good relationship with the person, they won't get offended. Why not come out aggressive? So offer 5 months free on a 5-year lease, and it can be back-ended. For example, it doesn't have to be 5 months upfront. It could be 1 month per year. For example, 1 month upfront and 1 month the second year, 1 month the third year, fourth year, fifth year. So it can be back-ended. You can get really creative as long as you have a discussion with the owner, make sure everyone's happy. And then on my end, I'm like, hey, I'm willing to sign a 5-year lease. So 5 times 12 is 60 months. Willing to sign a 60-month lease. And you can see this is where it becomes absolutely insanity. And this is why I have a hard time buying property when I can get paid to take on an arbitrage deal. The break-even time here is negative. What does that mean? That means that you are making a profit from pretty much day 1 or day 2. And there's no break-even time, right? Because you'll see what I mean. But this is not something wrong with the formula. This is like telling me that this is a home run deal. If you get a negative break-even time using my tool, that is 100% an amazing thing. Profit over lease becomes pretty insane. Why? Because I negotiated the rent per month, my fixed monthly cost down, and I'm looking to negotiate better rent concessions, right? So I'm going to project, let's let's say sign a 60-month lease, get 2 months free rent, paying $1,500 per month in rent. My first year profit is going to be $15,000 as opposed to $11,300. So that boosts it up by almost about 40%. And the profit over the entire lease is now $63,000 as opposed to $20,000. That is 3x, right? This is why negotiations is a very big factor in getting units, right? You could turn a losing deal on paper into an absolute home run by the proper negotiations. Case in point, this is already a decent ROI, but now it just became absolute insanity, if I'm able to negotiate this into the deal. And yes, I've negotiated things like this. I've negotiated 3 months of free rent before. This is very, very possible. Again, this is already fully furnished that they're offering me, so this is where it makes it crazy. And yes, it's not hard to get deals like this. You just have to get started. You have to use the right methods. You have to maintain relationships. You have to basically run the reverse arbitrage funnel, right? It's not a funnel. It's a way of doing business. It's a philosophy. It's a method. It's a way that you carry your business and yourself in a relationship-based way and a proper and sustainable business way so that you can get deals like this. Literally, this deal came to me inbound. It came today. I'm analyzing it for you guys live today. This is not a deal that my sales team looked up. This is not a deal that I sourced. This is a deal that came into me just from my relationship alone. And then I want to show you, I just want to show you how crazy the numbers could be, right? Let's see, profit over lease. The reason why it jumps that high is because, I'm now signing a 60-month lease as opposed to a 24-month lease. And I actually just signed a house 3 days ago, 5-year lease. So yes, you can definitely get these. And that is where actually it's a really cool win-win, right? Because we actually want more years or more months in the actual lease because it locks in our access to the property, which locks in our cash flow, which gives us higher cash flow because we have more months locked in. And if you're worried about, any potential risk, that is not factored into the lease length. If you're worried about needing to get out of a deal, that is a language that should be in your contract for you to get out if something happens with the economy, if something happens with the regulations. That's a mutually independent activity versus the lease length, right? Some people are like, oh, I'm just going to sign a 1-year lease because I'm afraid of what might happen. No, you should sign a 5-year lease and then have a out clause in your contract in case of, very particular risks, right? You have to be very methodical and optimize every single thing. So profit over lease renewal, this and that. So the profit, if I can negotiate this, which I'm very confident I can, or at least get close, this is where it becomes insane. So I'm going to run through the numbers one more time. Spend $46,000 and actually I'm probably going to try to be on a budget and do $1,500. That's where it becomes even crazier. But I'll just assume $2,000. Spend $2,000, redecorate everything. $46,000 total across 23 units. The revenue is going to be the same, $57,500 per month. The rent now is going to be lower, right? $34,500 versus $39,000. Say about $4,000 in rent. No utilities because it's included. Estimated profit per month is now $23,000 versus $18,000. So that's about 30% more. And then rent concessions, I got 2 months on a 60-month lease, and the break-even time again is negative. Now the first year profit across these units is going to be $345,000 as opposed to $259,000. The profit over the entire lease over the 5 years is going to be $1.449 million, and that's on a $46,000 investment. So you tell me whether or not you take this deal, right? Yes. Now, if you just look at the monthly profit, it's not amazing, $1,000 per month in net profit, you might think to move on. But you have to consider the deal specifics for this deal. I'm not spending any money on furniture. I can negotiate rent concessions. I can negotiate a longer lease. The actual ROI is what you need to care about. That's why when you're doing the sales process at the beginning, it doesn't make sense. You can't even plug in these numbers to actually run the deal, right? So step 1 in the sales process, blast out every single lead, cold call, etc., and then funnel it down to people that say yes. And when they say yes, then you get data points like the rent concessions. You get the data points like the lease length, like the rent per month, the utilities per month. You do the analysis on the revenue, and then you can actually have something put together. Like, how much money am I actually going to make on a quite granular basis, across the entire deal, not just per month, but like across the entire deal. And yeah, this is where you can see month 1, I'm literally going to be at $2,000 or $46,000 in profit in month 1 already because of the months of free rent. And you can see this is where it's absolutely insane. I'm in profit right away, and the profits that are going to be generated are going to be crazy. So, okay, the ROI checks out across the actual entire deal. So yes, the revenue, we did the math for the revenue, it feeds into the ROI. The baseline ROI already checks out. Again, this is ideal ROI. This sheet, or this ideal ROI sheet, is not what you want to look at to say yes or no to a deal. This is what you want to look at to negotiate with. The baseline ROI is going to tell me yes or no to a deal. Baseline ROI looks good, right? About 40% of a month, break-even time, about 5x. It's good. It's over 3x. We're good to go. This is what I want to push for. So I have like my notes to look at before I call this landlord or meet with this landlord. And now the final things to basically, check off to make sure the deal is good. These are the things. Regulations. So I want to double check the address against the zoning map of the city to make sure that I can actually proceed. Now for this one, it's a hotel. So it's a zoned hotel, doesn't need permits. We're good. Condition. TBD. You want to have yourself or someone go and physically walk through the unit to determine the condition is good. Now, if the condition isn't the best, that's not necessarily let me not take the deal. That just you got to be aware that it might be a little bit more of a maintenance hassle than a regular unit, or not a regular unit, than an A-class unit because it's more B or C class. You just have to keep that in mind that it's going to be a little bit more of an operational hassle, which can be maintained. It can be operated on, especially for your first deal. It's not too big of a deal, but you do want to do a condition walkthrough just to make sure it's not like the building's not literally falling apart. Reviews online. Obviously, I'm not going to share the particular building, but the reviews look good. Any red flags? This will be determined once I go there and check everything out. Access. This is like how your guests can access it. This is not a deal breaker. This is just something I have to make comment on. Hey, what systems do I need to implement for guest access? There's always a way to implement a streamlined guest access method. It's not a deal breaker if it seems hard. Competition. From what I analyzed around the area, what we saw on the bot, it was about 100 other listings. I am going to be looking at the competition, or I did look at the competition. Pretty sure I can do a lot better, especially, these are extended stay hotel units where they have a lot of good amenities. So it's good. Lease addendum, that's going to be good. Storage, it's a hotel, so that's good. I literally have storage space that I'm going to negotiate into the thing. And the thing is, once you land a unit or once you land a deal, you can actually ask the owners and negotiate storage space within the actual building. Parking, I know this is good. They have parking lots at the hotel. Appliances, to be determined, that's going to check that. Finishes. This is feeding into quality, but I just like to have it in its own row. Pests, I'm going to have to be there in person to see. Neighborhood, I'm going to have to be there in person to see. Maintenance, I'm going to have to be there in person to see. This is all feeding into quality, but pet policy, need to talk to the owner about, TBD. Owner strategy, TBD. Owner strategy, this is referring to, hey, what does the owner want to do with this property? Did they buy and are they planning to hold it for a long time? Or do they want to just, flip it and sell it to another owner? That's very important because ideal scenario, an owner is looking to buy and hold forever because you already negotiated doing short-term rentals, the rent, etc., and you're pretty much locked in as long as they own the property. If they're looking to sell very quickly, like in a year, that might be a deal breaker because when they sell to another owner, you have to basically repitch yourself. So they could non-renew, right? But again, it could be not a good deal. Even if they plan to sell it, you're going to be grandfathered in. So as long as that's what we assume conservatively that you get non-renewed. So if the deal still works out cash-wise, cash multiple-wise, even if the owner changes hands and the new ownership doesn't want to, renew you, you should still make enough. You should still take the deal if the cash ROI across the entire lease is at least a 3 times multiple. Okay, so this is giving me a good guideline of when I go tour the property. This is what I'm going to look at. And I'm actually going to film myself going through the property and showing you guys. So stay tuned to that. And logistical checklist. This is more so what I developed. I don't need to use this right now, but I'm putting this in here for you guys. So the first step is the outreach. This is like the sales process in a nutshell, right? If it's inbound or etc., any comments, good relationship. After the outreach, you have to, say verbal approval. So they like a company, they like you, and they want to move forward. And then next is, if they like you, they want to move forward, the corporate application, right? And then if you pass the corporate application, verbal approval of STR. There's a very specific way that we present ourselves, but get a verbal approval of STR, then a corporate application, then you pass the corporate application. Again, actually, the lease I just signed 2 days ago, I didn't even have to do this because the landlord liked me so much. He liked my company. He didn't even run a corporate credit check, right? So again, these things are standard, but if you can develop a good relationship, you can skip a lot of these steps. Corporate application, let's say that passes, or let's say you don't need it. Next step is get the lease, and then simultaneously or right after, get the lease addendum signed, and then you present that. And then actually after corporate application is the negotiation of the fees, negotiations, right? That's like the number of units, rent price, concessions, fees, security deposit. Okay. And then the lease addendum, and then signing. And then you need to prepare for the logistical stuff like deliveries. You need to work out with the landlord how that's going to be delivered. Sometimes they have people on site that can push packages into your room for you. Other times you're going to have to get a storage unit and then move everything over. So deliveries, logistics, and then telling them that you need to have a smart lock and ring installed. You just need to get the landlords okay. They're very typically okay with it. You just tell them like, hey, you got to phrase it as a benefit for them, right? Hey, we want to install ring cameras to make sure that all our guests are behaving well and they're not disturbance to your community or building. Who's going to say no? For the smart lock, we want to install smart locks so that every single guest gets a unique code, no other guest can re-enter, and we want to make sure your building is safe. Who's going to say no to that? After that's installed, then you order the furnitures, The build out occurs, photos, and then you go live. During this, you're gonna have to do like renter's insurance. This is like standard renter insurance. Most landlords will require you to have it. Just standard. Like you use get toggle, and then renter's insurance, utilities, Wi-Fi. Utilities could include electric, gas, etc. They're gonna want you to put that in your name. So getting all that set up, and then you go live. After the photos is you need to get check-in instructions and house manual made. Then you go live, and then you start hosting. That's pretty much the steps one by one. Put this out in each step, comments, and success or not. So you can check this off as you go along. This is going to be a very comprehensive deal analysis plus due diligence plus setup worksheet that I'm going to publish into the course for you guys. So to recap, this deal is a very good deal. I looked at the revenue. The data was from airbnb. I plugged that into my baseline ROI calculations based on the specifics of the deal, like lease length, concessions, rent price, and I concluded that it was a good deal to take based on the numbers. I then developed what I want to push for because I always want to go for better. Even if that deal works, I still want to go for better. So this is what I'm going to use to negotiate for an ideal ROI. And then I have my due diligence checklist. I'm going to go off just to, at this point, it's like I already want the deal. I'm looking for reasons to not take the deal, right? Everything should check out. If there's any huge major issues, then I won't take the deal. Otherwise, I'll take the deal. And then logistical checklist of once you actually start the process, this is each point along the process, all the way from outreach to start hosting. So this training, it's recorded on Loom. I'm going to give it to whoever I decide to give it to, along with this worksheet.